Hi, in this video I'll help you get to know your car a little better. At the end of this video I've put together a straightforward infographic that summarizes all the key points. Like, subscribe and comment below. It really helps.
All right, let's talk about that dreaded check engine light. If you've plugged in a scanner and it's throwing a P0305 code at you, you are in exactly the right place. We're going to crack this thing wide open, figure out what's really going on, and I'll even show you how you can start diagnosing it yourself. Let's dive in. So there you are, right? You turn the key and bam, that little orange light stares back at you from the dash. Maybe it's even flashing, which is not great. You grab your code reader, plug it in, and up pops P0305. I know, that's the moment that makes your stomach drop. But hey, don't sweat it. We are going to figure this out together. So what does P0305 actually mean? Well, plain and simple, it means your engine's computer has flagged a misfire in cylinder number 5. Okay, great. But what's a misfire and what on earth are you supposed to do next? That's our mission today. We're going to lay out the whole game plan. Okay, let's break this down. Imagine your engine is like a rowing team in one of those longboats, right? Every cylinder is a rower, and they all have to pull their oar in perfect time for the boat to fly across the water. A misfire? That's like one of your rowers just stops rowing. They miss a stroke. Suddenly, the whole boat jerks, it loses speed, and everything feels wrong. That's exactly what's happening inside your engine right now. Now, let's talk about that flashing light I mentioned. If your check engine light is blinking, that's not a suggestion. That is your car screaming at you. It means raw, unburned fuel is being pumped straight into your exhaust, and it's cooking your catalytic converter from the inside out. We're talking about a repair that can easily soar past $1,000. So if it's flashing, find a safe place to pull over and shut it down. Seriously. Okay, so before we start playing mechanic, we need to be detectives. Let's go over the clues, the symptoms your car is giving you that something's up. Does any of this sound familiar? You're sitting at a stoplight, and the whole car is shaking, right? Or you go to step on the gas and it just hesitates and jerks instead of giving you that smooth power, and you're probably noticing that your gas mileage has totally tanked. You might even smell raw fuel coming out of the exhaust. Yep, those are the classic calling cards of a misfire. All right, detective, we've got our clues. Now it's time to round up the usual suspects. When it comes to a misfire, the culprit almost always falls into one of three main gangs. First, you've got your ignition system issues. Then there are problems with fuel delivery. And finally, the really tricky ones, mechanical engine faults. The easiest way to think about it is this. For a cylinder to fire right, it needs three things: spark, fuel, and compression. Our problem is that cylinder 5 is missing one of those three. But here's the really great news. Check this out. The vast majority of the time, the problem is with the ignition system. We're talking spark plugs, ignition coils, stuff like that. And why is this such good news for you? Because these are by far the easiest and cheapest things to check and fix right in your own driveway. So, since the odds are stacked in favor of an ignition problem, that's where we're going to start our investigation. And I'm going to show you a super simple but incredibly powerful test that you can do with just a couple of basic tools. This little trick is called the swap test. And honestly, it's the secret weapon for any DIYer. No expensive gear, no complex procedures, just a little bit of logic. And trust me, it is ridiculously good at finding the bad guy. Okay, here's the play-by-play. First step, you got to figure out where cylinder 5 actually is. A quick search online for your engine's firing order or cylinder layout will show you. Found it? Cool. Now, you're going to unplug and unbolt the ignition coil from cylinder 5. Then, do the same for another easy-to-reach cylinder, let's say cylinder 1. Now, just swap them. Put the coil from 5 on 1 and the coil from 1 on 5. Easy. After that, clear the engine codes with your scanner, start the car, and go for a quick drive. If that check engine light comes back on and now your scanner says P0301, boom, you've found your culprit. The misfire moved with the coil. You need a new ignition coil. But what happens if you do the swap test and the code comes back as P0305, the misfire didn't move? Well, that's okay. Every great detective knows when it's time to bring in the specialists with the fancy gear.
And this is the perfect way to see that line in the sand. On one side, you've got your home gamer tests. The swap test we just did, maybe pulling the spark plug to see if it's fouled, or checking for an obvious vacuum leak. But on the other side, you have the heavy-duty stuff that the pros use. Things like compression tests, leak-down tests. These dig into the deep mechanical health of the engine. If the easy stuff doesn't pan out, that's your cue to hand it over to a pro with these tools.
But let's go back to our code for a second. P0305. The really important part here isn't just misfire, it's cylinder 5. That number, that's not random. It is a huge clue, and it's something that professional techs pay a lot of attention to. You see, where cylinder number 5 lives inside your engine bay totally depends on your engine's design. In a V8, it's in a different spot than in an inline-6, and its location, its neighborhood, changes everything. It affects how much heat it gets, how the wires run to it, all of which can make it prone to very specific, well-known problems for that particular engine. And this is where it gets really interesting. Look at this. If you have a GM V8, cylinder 5 is often part of their fuel-saving AFM system, and a P0305 code could be an early warning of a failing lifter. Got a Ford 4-liter V6? Cylinder 5 is notorious for issues with the rubber boot on the ignition coil. And on a BMW inline 6, well, a P0305 could be pointing you towards their Vanos variable valve timing system. See? Once you know your engine's specific weak spots, that P0305 code stops being a random number and becomes a real, solid lead. And that is the big takeaway here. The question you should always ask is, why cylinder 5? Why not cylinder 2 or 6? Asking that question is what separates the pros from the amateurs. Is it running hotter back there? Is the wiring harness rubbing on something nearby? This is how you go from just swapping parts to actually understanding what's happening with your engine. So the next time that check engine light comes on and you see a code like P0305, try not to see it as just a headache. Think of it as a message. It's the beginning of a story, a puzzle your car is asking you to solve. It's giving you clues, patterns. All you have to do is learn to read them. So the real question isn't just, how do I fix it, but what story is your engine trying to tell you?